Hello, this is Tom from BlackToad Studio, and here is my 2,000 points of Red Scorpions. This particular force is a battalion detachment, and it is led by Magister Sevrin Loth, who is down here. And just behind him there, he has an Honour Guard unit, so that's 2 of the axes there. And behind them, 2 other choices now, because obviously the Honour Guard is just 2, and they're now separate units for the Company Ancient, which is the standard bearer, and the Company Champion there. Obviously they used to be all part of one unit, but split out in this edition. Coming down to the front here for the other HQ, we just have a standard librarian with a 4 stave, and he'll be joined by a Cataphractory Terminator squad there. 3 lightning claws, 2 power fists. One of the power fists has got a heavy flamer as well, and also the captain here is carrying a power sword, and they'll probably be riding up in this Castus assault ram here. Likewise, this squad would be riding in the Land Raider Helios. Moving on to troop choices at the front, we have one tactical squad over here, which is basically a 10-man tactical marine squad with a melter gun, all riding in a rhino. And likewise, a mirror squad over here in that rhino there. And then as an extra choice here, we have a 10-man sniper squad with camo cloaks. I know usually we couldn't take them in the old rules, but I needed to make up some points. So in this one, they will be using them as represented. So that is my 2,000 points of Red Scorpions. We'll now see what Daryl's bought for his Death Guard and Demons. And here is Daryl's 2,000 points of kind of Death Guard and Nurgle Demons. So I'll just pass you over to Daryl's voice here, so he's going to tell us what's in the army.
Okay, so at the front here we have a squad of 7 Plague Marines with 2 plasma guns, and we also have the champion there at the back with a Plague Sword. And then just behind them, as Tom zoomed in on, we have the Lord of Contagion, so one of the new models from the the Dark Imperium box. Yep. And behind them, another squad of Plague Marines, exactly the same loadout as the first. Okay, we also have a Rhino, which is giving them some transport today, and just behind that, a Land Raider as well. Yep, and let's move into the middle here, so we've got a little... Okay, so today he's acting as my Malignant Plaguecaster. Unfortunately, the other model's not quite ready yet, so he's acting in his stead. And behind him we have my Demon Prince with wings. Okay. And then I have my other troop choice, which is a squad of 25 cultists. I haven't gone with the heavy weapons, but the champion at the front does have a shotgun. Yes. Over here we have my pride and joy, my latest new addition, which is Cor'Bax UtterBlight from Forge World. So in this edition he's only a HQ, so quite eager to give him a go. And just over here we have some Nurglings, 4 little swarms of Nurglings, and in front of them a Herald with, again, 25 Plague Bearers, with the Banner and Musician as well. So that's my forces today. I'll pass it back to Tom.
Okay, so that's the 2,000 points for Daryl there. We'll now move on to the mission and deployment. Hello, Tom from BlackToad Studio again, and I'm joined by Daryl. Hello. Hi, Daryl. Obviously just seen our armies, and we're now about to launch into our mission. So without further ado, we are now playing the Cleanse and Control Maelstrom mission. So we have our 6 objectives dotted across the board, which are going to be marked by these giant dice here. So obviously we've got 1 hiding up here. We have number 4 down here. We have number 2 here. We have number 6 here. Number 5 here. And I believe there's one more, which I've lost, which is over here. Number 3, where the little Nurglings are hiding on. So the object of Cleanse and Control is 3 objective cards every round, no more, no less. And then we have to achieve them. There's also First Blood, Line Breaker, and Slay the Warlord. So, as you can see here, the armies have deployed. So, Nurgle is over here. And then the Red Scorpions have arrayed on this side of the board here. We rolled for the kind of pinched deployment. So there was like a 9-inch gap each side in the middle here, with a kind of a triangle deployment coming back to each edge. So that is all the deployment done. It is currently Red Scorpions to go first, unless Daryl can seize initiative, if he wants to, of course.
Oh, I think I'll give it a go.
So here we go. No.
So close.
So back in a moment with the Red Scorpions, turn 1. Okay, so the turn 1 objective draw, we have Secure Objective 1, Secure Objective 2, and Secure Objective 6. We'll now move on to movement for turn 1 Scorpions. We enter turn 1 movement for the Red Scorpions over here. This squad got out, and we'd previously agreed that each floor was going to be 3 inches, so essentially they've gone to the top floor here after getting out the Rhino. The Rhino then moved forward a little bit. The Land Raider Helios has charged forward just to get up to objective 2, but obviously still being able to shoot. The Assault Ram has moved forward its minimum distance. It's a little bit risky because obviously the Demon Prince is there and that can assault it as it has fly. We'll see how that pans out. And then finally over on this corner here, the little Rhino here has gone over the terrain without immobilising itself. It can't happen anymore. Yes. And gone towards objective 1, which is up here. We didn't advance it because I didn't really see the rush to get there with this chappie sitting under here. So that is the end of turn 1 movement for Red Scorpions. We'll now move into shooting and see what happens. So at the end of turn 1 shooting for Red Scorpions, the most damage was done by the Land Raider Helios and the Castor Assault Ram here, who both fired all the weapons in at Land Raider and managed to take 10 wounds off it, which is pretty impressive. We'll see if that does lend us a bit of advantage in the next part of the game. The snipers did have a little crack at it as well, but as expected, didn't do a lot of damage. In fact, they did none. So, hey-ho. So that's the end of the shooting phase. We're probably going to go on to the assault phase because the assault ram can assault fly, anything with the keyword of fly. So we're going to have a pop at the Demon Prince, I think, just for a bit of a laugh, see what happens. Probably end up quite bad for him. So we'll join you in the assault phase. So as the assault ram ploughed into the Demon Prince on turn 1 assault, it seemed like a good idea at the time. However, as you can see, he's now on 8 wounds and he started on 14. Demon Prince is 6 wounds to it, with it after hitting twice and getting some good rolls on the damage, and me failing both my saves, sadly. That's that. We'll see what happens in, obviously, the preceding phase, if that combat carries on or whether people get scared. We'll see. So we'll just move on and see what I scored at the end of turn 1. So at the end of turn 1 for the Red Scorpions, I managed to score objective 6 and objective 2. I'm also going to discard objective 1 because I don't feel I can get in range to achieve that with my model count. So that is the end of turn 1 for Scorpions. We'll now move over to turn 1 for Chaos. So at the start of Chaos turn 1, we have drawn here objective 1, objective 2 and objective 3. So we'll see if they can be achieved by the end of turn. Moving on to Chaos turn 1 movement. So as we move on into Death Guard turn 1, the movement phase here, these cultists ran up, so they advanced at the same time and they managed to get up on the 2nd floor, so we're ruling that as in range of that objective. The is it Urbathax? Cor'Bax, sorry, pardon me, has moved forward his 7 inches. Over here, the Land Raiders ploughed forward, and also, as you can see there, the Demon Prince has decided to stay and fight. It's probably a wise decision. Also, during that phase, due to the Lord of Contagion rule, he also managed to cause a mortal wound on a 4-up to this guy here. Now, unfortunately, it was a 4-up, so he's taken another wound, so he's on 7 now. And over here, the Plague Bearers have ran forward. Again, it's got a 6-inch increase on their move, pretty good. And also, the Rhino has moved up here, and the Herald has just jumped around this way to get himself in range of certain vehicles. So, that is the end of the movement phase. We'll now move on to Psychic and Shooting and see what happens. So as Death Guard enter their turn 2 Psychic and Shooting, the Demon Prince let off a few psychic powers. One actually doing another mortal wound to this poor Castor Assault Ram, so not too good. And also we had the ability that gives this a +1. Oh no, it didn't go off, did it?
It did.
Oh, it did go off, yeah.
Tried to... No, it failed.
It failed, so yeah. Well, he did try to cast 1 for -1 to hit, but didn't get it off. The Land Raider then fired all its las cannons into the Land Raider, managed to take 2 wounds off. It fired its heavy bolter up here at the scouts and managed to kill 1. And over here, a cheeky shot from the Rhino's combi bolter, fired up here and actually managed to kill 1 Marine as well. So, pretty not much happening in the first turn for shooting anyway. We'll now move on into the combat phase and see what happens probably over here. So, in turn 1 assault phase for Chaos here, unfortunately the Castor Assault Ram met its doom from the Demon Prince up here. All these guys got out, been using the normal rules. No 6 was rolled on the ram exploding, which is good. However, 1 died as per the disembarkation rules on a 1. So one of the Terminators has met a nasty kind of fate as it probably fell out and landed on the Land Raider and got consumed by Nurglings. So, as you can see, look, there's so many in the front. So that's the end of turn 1 for the Chaos side. We'll now move on to turn 2 for Red Scorpions. And so just before we move on to turn 2 for Scorpions, of course the score for the Nurgle side here. Objective 1 and 3 were scored, leaving 2 which Daryl is keeping. So that's the end of there. As the Scorpions refocus themselves after losing their cast assault round, the objectives of Defend Objective 4, Kingslayer and Hold the Line have been drawn. We'll now move on to movement phase in turn 2. So at the start of turn 2 movement over here, this squad has jumped out its Rhino to get hold of Objective 4 because we do have an objective holding it for 2 consecutive turns, so may as well put use to them over here, although they're going to be a bit wary with old chubby Chops over there. Don't really want him getting into range. Over here we have the Land Raider Helios has moved up a bit further forward. I haven't deposited Sevrin Loth yet because I don't really feel the need just yet. We're going to try and take that Land Raider out hopefully. This squad has moved up to the edge of the platform here to get a shot down at the Nurglings. So yeah, that's all the movement done. We'll now move on into Psychic and Shooting and see what the Scorpions can do. Okay, so unfortunately the one thing I needed to die this turn did not. It's on 1 wound after taking multiple shots from the Land Raider, the Terminators and the Snipers up here. Unfortunately did not do enough wounds to it. In other news over here, this squad of Tacticals shot down at the Nurglings here, managed to remove 2 bases, so not too bad. And over here we had a few shots in at Cor'Bax here and didn't take any wounds off. However, the Storm Bolter on this Rhino shot over here and plinked off 1 cultist. Probably not the end of the world for them. So that is the end of the shooting phase. We'll now move on to the assaulting phase and see what happens. So at the end of turn 2 for the Scorpions, the Land Raider has finally died after taking many powerful hits and only managed to get 1 through, but it failed the save on that luckily. And I've moved up to within 1 inch of the enemy walls there to stop obviously them shooting me the next round. So that is the end of turn 2. We'll now move on into turn 2 for Chaos and see what happens. So at the end of turn 2 for Scorpions over here, we have Hold the Line scored because I did have 3 of my units in there. However, I did not manage to score Kingslayer or Defend Objective 4. However, they are obviously going to be kept because I think they're both possible. So we'll now move on into the Demons and Chaos and Death Guard, turn 2. So at the start of the Nurgle Forces turn 2, we have got behind enemy lines, advance, and obviously we kept security 2 from the last turn. So now we'll move on to the movement phase. So at the start of the movement phase in turn 2 for the Nurgle Forces, down here the Plague Bearers have all moved up. The Nurglings have hopped off their little perch and gone towards this end of the battlefield. The Herald has shifted along as well, obviously. Moving over into the middle here, we have the Rhino that's moved up. It did deposit its guys before it moved, I should say. Has moved up there with the Demon Prince as well, all sort of collating in this particular area here, including Cor'Bax, who's come over this way. So there's going to be a bit of a scrap in the middle, I have a suspicion. So we'll see what happens there. Shifting over to this side of the board, the Cultists have all moved forward along with their little sorcerer back up there. Just getting ready to possibly put a few rounds in this particular area. So that is the end of the movement phase. We'll now move on to the Psychic and Shooting. So at the end of the shooting phase and psychic phases for Chaos over here, the Cultists have been made harder to hit by the sorcerer nearby, so they're -1 to hit for them at the moment. Over in the middle, the Gift of Contagion was attempted to be cast onto the Terminator squad, however it was denied. And this squad of Plague Marines shot their plasmas, actually just their plasmas in the end over here, rapid firing overcharged into here and managed to take 2 wounds off the Land Raider However, sadly, it did manage to slay one of them in the process. The bolt pistols then fired into the cataphractii terminators there and managed to do 1 casualty's worth of damage there. So that is all the shooting. We'll now move on to the assault phase, and I think it's about to get messy. So, as we go into the end of turn 2 assault for the demons and chaos, over here, quite a bit of melee erupted. As you can see, the demon prince is on 3 wounds at the moment. However, he did manage to take out the librarian. The librarian counter-attacked in that particular combat phase and took 5 wounds off him, which was quite good. However, obviously he's still standing. The Lord of Contagion did rather well and took out 3 Terminators in the end, 4, I think. Yeah, 3 Terminators, pardon me. So pretty solid. The leadership for the morale test passed quite nicely as they rolled a 1, so they are hanging in there for the moment. Not so good for the people hitting the Land Raider. Unfortunately, Cor'Bax didn't manage to do anything to the Land Raider in the end. And neither did the...
it did cause a single mortal wound with his
touch. Yeah, sorry, with his touch, that's right. So it was 1 mortal wound there. He's down to 11. And over here, this Rhino decided that he wanted a bit of Rhino on Rhino action, charged in and managed to take 1 wound off my Rhino. So, little paint scratch there. So we'll see if we can come back and win that fight there. So that is the end of the turn. So at the end of that turn, we'll move over here to see the objectives. I think Advance was the only one that was scored in the end, and Darryl is hanging on to Secure Objective 2 and behind enemy lines. So that is the end of turn 2 for Chaos. We'll now move on to turn 3 for the Red Scorpions. Okay, so at the start of turn 3 for the Red Scorpions, pardon me, I've drawn Defend Objective 2 in addition to the 2 I kept last turn, so I've still got Objective 4 and Kingslayer. At the moment I am on course to score Defend Objective 2 because it will be the 2nd consecutive turn I held it. But we'll now move on to the movement phase and see what happens. So as we plough on into turn 3 for the Red Scorpions, during the movement phase, everything exited the Land Raider Helio, so we've had Sevrin Loth and his Honour Guard, plus the Ancient and Company Champion jump out, hopefully going to face down Cor'Bax. It could be quite messy for them, I have a suspicion. The Land Raider then moved back after getting them out so that the snipers up here could potentially fire down at Cor'Bax as well, taking off a couple of wounds, maybe. This Rhino decided that he didn't really want to play with the Plague Rhino, so he packed off quite severely, while the squad that he deposited in the first turn has squared up down here with the Melter at the front, ready to try and take that out, although it'll be a very lucky shot, I think. Over here, as I said at the beginning, this squad is staying still because it is due to get Objective 4 at the end of this turn, and then we'll see if they can do something after that. So, we'll now move on to the shooting phase and see what can be achieved. Okay, so at the end of the psychic and shooting phases over here, Sevrin cast Might Heroes himself, so he's got +1 strength, toughness and attacks. In the shooting part of this particular phase over here, all the snipers shot down at Cor'Bax, didn't do anything. All the bolt pistols here shot in here, did a wound but didn't do anything after the saves were taken. Over here, the Rhino did manage to take 6 wounds in total after the bolters and the melters all fired in, so that's not too bad. However, I have a suspicion they might be in a bit of trouble next turn. This big mob is looking quite close now. Nothing else is able to shoot, so we'll now move on into the assault phase and see what happens in the middle here. So in the melee in the middle here, unfortunately not going too well for the Red Scorpions. We managed to take, I think, was it a wound off Cor'Bax in the end? 2 wounds off Cor'Bax. Unfortunately, Terminators did meet their doom to the mighty axe of the Lord of Contagion there. And obviously everything is now consolidated this way. Nothing else was involved in combat, so that's that end there of turn 3. We're just going to see what I scored, which are located over here. We did manage to score a Defend Objective 4, because that was been there for 2 turns. So we're left with Kingslayer and Defend Objective 2, which I'm going to hang on to, because at the moment I am possibly able to score that. We shall see. We'll now move on into turn 3 for the demons. So at the start of turn 3 for Nurgle, here are the 3 objectives needing to be scored. Secure Objective 2 behind enemy lines and Defend Objective 6. Okay, so at the start of turn 3 movement for Chaos, just so you are aware, all these dice here are not representing wounds taken. They are also representing wounds that each model has, because it was getting rather confusing with having to look up every single model. I've put the maximum number of wounds on each of these as well, but I do know which ones have taken wounds. So the Honour Guard here, obviously one is on 1 wound and the other one is on max 2 wounds, just as an explanation in case anyone picks that up. Movement wise over here, obviously this squad of Plague Marines has moved round to sort of assist this area, along with the Lord of Contagion, which is also obviously going to try and pop in here to say hello. Over here, the Plague Bearer squad has waddled on forward towards obviously these Marines that are hiding under here, along with the Rhino that has also moved up here. And the Demon Prince has moved around to get a charge on the Company Champion, along with these Plague Bearers obviously aiming up another charge on the Land Raider to put it out of action for another turn. So, at the end over here, the Cultists have also moved up, hopefully, I think, trying to wrap up the Land Raider, the Rhino, so it can't go anywhere, or go for the Marines, never know. So that's the end of the movement phase. We'll now move on to Psychic and Shooting and see what happens. So, during the Psychic and Shooting, a lot of pistols fired into this Honour Guard squad. They all saved. Miraculously over here, somehow all the cultists shot in and took off 3 wounds off a Rhino. Very lucky, but they did well, to be fair. Over here, the Plague Marines shot their one single remaining Plasma in here and managed to take another 2 wounds off this Land Raider. All good. I think Psychic-wise, a couple of things were attempted. I believe some wounds were attempted to be regained over here, but they're denied, and also I think Smite was also denied by Sevrin in the middle there, so no Psychic went off there. That is the end of the shooting phase, so we'll move on to the assault phase, and I'm pretty sure this is where it gets a bit more bloody. So, during that round of combat in turn 3 for Chaos, Sevrin has unfortunately died to the eating by Cor'Bax, so he'll be hopefully reproduced later somewhere else so I can put him back on the board. Also, the Honour Guard were destroyed by the Lord of Contagion. And over here, though, the Company Champion managed to take out the Demon Prince with a couple of good hits, so that's one positive for me over here. Sadly, the Land Raider is locked up in combat again, so they're going to reverse out just to be able to shoot the following turn. We'll see if that pans out or not. Over here, this combat kind of, I think it was 2 Plague Bearers to 1 Marine in the end, so nothing too special. And over here, the Cultists tried, but didn't manage to do any wounds, and I don't think we did any back either. So
you ran one over.
Oh yeah, we did run one over. Yes, sorry, we did run one over because it was a lucky little wound there. So, Slay the Waller was achieved, obviously. And as we move over here to see what other objectives were done, was there anything else that was achieved? So, behind enemy lines?
Yeah, that has been achieved. The cheeky Nurglings at the back over there got that.
And the other 2 are still in contention at the moment.
I think I'm going to get rid of Defend Objective 6.
So, Defend Objective 6 is gone, so that leaves you with just a Secure Objective 2. So, that is the end of turn 3 for the Nurgle forces. We'll now move over to turn 4 for the Red Scorpions and see if they can pull back a bit of pride. Okay, so I have drawn some new cards here. I actually drew Master of the Warp. However, ironically, obviously, as all my Psychers are now dead, I couldn't achieve that, so I spent my last 2 command points to generate another one, which was Defend Objective 6. So we've got Defend Objective 2, Kingslayer, and Defend Objective 6. Right. So, we'll now see what happens in the movement phase. Okay, so in the turn 4 movement phase for Red Scorpions, over here, the Rhino has moved away and cleared a path for the Red Scorpion Tactical Squad there to get some firing solutions on that Cultist Squad. Hopefully we're going to thin them out a bit. The Land Raider has moved back and allowed the Rhino to form a blocking barricade to the Plague Marines chasing it down. On reflection, probably should have done that last turn, but hey-ho. The melee carries on underneath here. As you can see, just there, they are still fighting the Plague Bearers. So no other movement was necessary. We'll now move on into the shooting phase. I have no Psychic left. And see what happens. So the snipers at the beginning of that shooting phase shot down at the Lord of Contagion and did nothing. Over here, the bolters fired in to the Cultists. I think we moved another 3, and the Melter removed 1, so 4 in total have gone from that squad now. And over here, this Stormbolter shot in at this squad here and did nothing. That was pretty much all the shooting. So we'll now move on to the combat phase and see if these 2 brave Red Scorpions can hold out. So down here in the middle, somehow miraculously these two guys are still hanging in there after passing 5 up and 6 up saves. However, I have a suspicion they may be in trouble next turn. Over here, the cultists were wiped out to the man after a horrible morale test, rolling a 6 plus the amount of point they lost 9 during combat and shooting, etc. So yeah, they're all gone. The plague bearers, on the other hand, did manage to lose a couple of them. However, they rolled a 1, so they blinked back in 3. So pretty powerful, really, that little unit. When they always take that leadership, even if you can't possibly fail it, because you never know, you roll a 1. So that's everything in this particular combat phase. We'll now move on into turn 4 for Nurgle, and we'll just see what I've scored. So at the end of turn 4 for me there, I managed to score Defend Objective 2 because I still have 2 units closest to that thing after 2 turns. And I'm still left with these 2 here. I am going to get rid of Defend Objective 6. I don't think I'm going to get up there. So we'll now move on into turn 4 for Nurgle. So at the top of turn 4 for Nurgle here we have the 3 objectives still needed, so Secure Objective 2, Defend Objective 5 and Defend Objective 4. We'll now move on to the movement phase. So during the movement phase in turn 4 for Chaos, here the Herald has moved up. In the middle, this Plague Bearer squad, not Plague Bearer, sorry, Plague Marine squad has moved over, along with this one here as well, obviously to put a little attention on the scouts up here. Lord of Contagion decided that Cor'Bax has had enough and wants to be released from his annoyance, and he's going to help probably take out the Ancient this turn. And over here, the Sorcerer, realising that all his charges have disappeared, has decided to move forward himself to deal with the squad here. So that's the end of the movement phase. We now move on to Psychic and Shooting and see what happens. So, Shooting and Psychic in the middle here. Quite a lot of shooting from the 2 Plague Marine squads, all fired up here. Managed to take out a Scout in the end. Over here, the Psychic phase resulted in 3 Marines being removed, because Smite was cast. Also, it was a Malignant Plague caster, so it added an extra wound, so 3 wounds in total. So, that's 3 Marines gone from there. Quite nice. Shooting over to this side of the board. The Herald got, was it Virulent Blessing on here. So, they get extra wounds on 6s, I believe.
They get an extra strength on...
Extra strength on 6s. So, that is the end of the Psychic and Shooting. We're now moving into combat, so this is speeding up a little bit here. And let's see what happens. So, at the end of the combat phase for Nurgle here, we had 4 dead Marines here. However, that was all in the shooting phase, so nothing actually died during the fighting phase, and we didn't hit back with anything at all either. So nothing really much happened over here. In the middle, as expected, the Lord of Contagion finished off the company champion with Cor'Bax and the Ancient, so that's all been mopped up there. And over here, the Plague Bearers again lost combat. However, another 1 was rolled, another 3 came back. So that squad is getting rather large, and I'm not really doing much damage to it, so I don't really see much hope in getting rid of it. However, c'est la vie. So at the end of turn 4, we'll just see what Daryl's scored, and then we'll move on to turn 5 for Scorpions. So at the end of that turn 4 for Nurgle, they obviously scored Objective 2, and Defend Objective 4 is being gotten rid of, and Defend Objective 5 is being kept. So that is the end of turn 4. We'll now move on to Scorpions turn 5 and see what they can do. So, at the beginning of turn 5 for the Red Scorpions, we have Kingslayer, Defend Objective 5 and Witch Hunter to try and achieve. So we'll now move on into the movement phase and see what happens. So, during the movement phase in turn 5 for the Scorpions, the Land Raiders shuffle back around to get line of sight on this part of the board. Not quite sure what he's going to go for yet. We shall see. The Rhino shuffle aside to give him clear line of sight. Nothing else can actually move. These guys are staying still because they've got heavy weapons, so I don't want to sacrifice their shooting power. So, let's see what happens in the shooting phase. So, as we attempted to take down the Lord of Contagion with the snipers, again, not even a single 6. I think every round these snipers have not even scored 1 mortal wound so far. Not brilliant, so he was still alive. I then decided to concentrate all the fire from the Land Raider at Cor'Bax. We did take off I think in the end 4 wounds in the end, so not too bad. We was kind of hoping we did actually get 2 lads cannons through, but didn't roll very high on the damage table, sadly. So not too much damage on there. That was pretty much it. So not much more shooting I can do. So we'll now shift on into the assaulting phase as we move on. I think just sort of this area over here and the plague bearer combat under here. So at the end of turn 5 combat for the Scorpions, we took a couple of wounds off down here, and we also lost one back in return. Over here, the plague bearer and marine combat carried on, and unfortunately, it resulted in 2 deaths for the. No, I think it was 4 deaths for the plague bearers, isn't it? I think in the end, and a bad issue roll, so 2 more died. They didn't get a 6 or a 1 this time, luckily, so no more multiplications. So that's all good. So we'll now move on into turn 5 for Nurgle after I've seen what I've scored. So I did not score anything there. Now, as myself and Darren decided to finish on turn 5 because it's getting quite late, so this will be my final turn. So obviously I haven't scored anything there. So we'll see what I've got at the end of the following turn. So at the start of turn 5 for Nurgle, we have Defend Objective 5, Secure Objective 6, and a Domination. So let's see if those can be achieved. So at the end of turn 5 movement for Nurgle, pretty much everything in the middle here has moved forward. So these 2 Plague Marine squads here and here have shuffled up towards the sniper's nest up here, and obviously also got away from the Rhino down here. And Cor'Bax and the Lord of Contagion have squared up against it. I'm pretty sure they should finish it off as it is on 4 hull points. So the marker just fell off. I'll just put that back on there in a second. That is all the movement that was actually possible. So we'll now move on into the shooting phase and see what happens. So during an amazing psychic phase in turn 5, we had Smite go off and managed to kill all 3 of the Marines in front of him. So he's standing there going, I'll move on to this objective shortly. Over here, during the shooting phase, a lot of fire came in under the scouts up, and they did actually lose 1 more man. So that was some bolt of fire from the Marine squads down here. That was all the shooting that was possible. So we're now going to move on into the last combat phase before we end the game, and let's see what happens. So at the end of turn 5 combat, in the middle here, the Rhino met a Grizzly end and exploded. However, it did take a few wounds out with it, so it managed to inflict 3 on Cor'Bax and also, I think, 1 on Lord of Contagion, but none on the Plague Marines. So a bit of an explosion there, and over here, the Plague Bearers managed to wipe out the rest of that squad, so they are gone as well. So that is the end of turn 5 for Nurgle. They managed to score 1 additional objective there, which was defend objective 5. So what we're going to do now, we're going to quickly go and add up the scores at the end of that turn and see who actually won. Okay, so at the end of turn 5, we have a result for you. It was 10 to Nurgle and 7 to the Red Scorpions. It was actually the tertiary objectives that managed to tip it over to Nurgle's favour, because we had Slay the Warlord, Linebreaker scored by the Nurglings over here, and also First Blood unfortunately inflicted on my flyer, which was after a rather foolish move by myself, which I won't be doing again. Had a good fun game as usual, so, and I hope you did as well, Darryl.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Any favourite moments for you in the game, or any favourite unit? Or
well, I think the Lord of Contagion is.
I was already coming over here.
He's an absolute beast. I mean,
yeah.
I think his dice rolls were lucky. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But hitting on 2s. Doing
it's the 3 damage. It's the 3 damage bit that really pushes him through.
Really nice.
Yeah, so I'd agree with that. As for me, I don't really have a favourite unit, to be honest. I mean, some of the psychic stuff that went, I think actually the Librarian was quite amusing, and the fact that he managed to take off 5 wounds of Demon Prince after counter-attacking, so that's probably one of my favourite moments. But all my units were kind of quite average this game. I made a few tactical errors in my honest opinion, which was basically, I think, charging the Assault Ram in the first turn. It was more to try it out really, because I haven't really played with it at all, and I just wanted to see if it actually lived up to its reputation of being quite good at trying to kill flyers, but it really didn't. So I've learnt my lesson on that, so that won't be happening. But other than that, I had a good fun game. So as always, thank you all for watching. If you've liked what you've seen, obviously give us a like and a subscription to the channel, and also give us a few comments. Let us know what's going on. Thanks for that. Take care. This is Tom from BlackToad Studio.